Hi and welcome to another 3-string cigar box guitar lesson. I'm Sean from Coda Guitar, and today we're looking at playing tunes, playing riffs using scales, so like melodies basically. So this was using a major scale. We've got another lesson which is looking at minor scale, which has got a different sort of character to it, and there are also lessons that tie in nicely with this, looking at chords, different major and minor chord progressions. So feel free to check those out on our channel as well. So before we carry on, let's just check we're in tune. So it's a standard cigar box guitar tuning, so G on the low string, D on the middle string, and G on the high string. So those notes together, as I've explained before, they create a power chord, and so that's what we're doing. Is what I was doing there was I was like droning the low G throughout. So I was mostly playing the varied sort of melody notes on the high string. So we'll just start looking at whereabouts the notes are on the high string. So the open string is a G, and so we're literally just going to play that as the start note, and then fret 2, fret 4, you can just use one finger if you want, fret 5, fret 7, fret 9, fret 11, fret 12. So I'll do that again. Open, fret 2, fret 4, fret 5, fret 7, fret 9, fret 11, fret 12. So if you're interested, I mean, it's not necessary that you particularly know this, but if you're interested, the notes are G, obviously is the first one, A, B, C, D, E, and then fret 11 is what we call a sharp note, F sharp, it's like a black note on the piano, and then back to G. So the reason why I'm stopping at fret 12, I have got some more frets here, is that these are what we call the octave of the open strings. So if my open strings are tuned to G, D, G, fret 12, the notes are also G, D, and G. So anything past that is going to be the same as what I've played lower down here. So if, for example, if I go like this, open, 2, 4, 5, the equivalent, open, 2, 4, 5, which is actually frets 12, 14, 16, 17. So everything just like resets and starts again, but what we call one octave higher. Okay. Now we can play this scale on other strings as well. So I've just played it on the top string, high G, but if the low string is also a G, then I can just play exactly the same frets. It's exactly the same notes, exactly the same position. It does sound different though, because it's the bass that's changing. It almost sounds like we're almost changing chord in a way. Whereas if I do it on the top string, not exactly the same, but it's basically the same notes. You can hear it doesn't sound like it's changing chord-wise. It sounds like the melody, the tune's changing. So if you want to create something that's more melodic, then you want to be playing on this thinner string, the higher string. Or if you want to make it sound like the bass, the chords are altering, then you can sort of drop onto this low one. We can do the same thing on the middle string as well, which starts on a D. So we're not actually starting at the start of the scale here. Because this is a G chord, this is a G major scale, so we're sort of starting halfway through here. So there's a D, and then I'd go up 2 frets, and then another 2 frets, and then 1 fret, and then I've now hit my G So this is the start of the scale on the middle string on fret 5. Okay, so I'll then start again, go up 2 frets higher, fret 7, fret 9, fret 10 this time, and then fret 12. Or stepping up to the G, it's open 2, 4, 5. And again, it's not necessary that you know this, but if you're interested, it's D, E, that F sharp, that piano black note again, G, A, B, C, D. Okay. So the example I played at the beginning. Now, you may well find this easier because than the chord lesson, because the shapes aren't quite as physical that your fretting hands are having to play. So this could be a good route into more sort of melodic stuff, but it ties in nicely with the in particular the major chord lesson, and you can almost tie these two examples together and create something a little bit more substantial as a little piece if you wanted to do that. But the pattern that we're using here is, I think we've used this before, it's fairly standard picking pattern. So my thumb is just thumping away on the low string, and I'm going to do a pull on beat 1, so it's and then in between with my index and then middle fingers. I'm doing a tiny bit of palm muting here on. Again, we've got a lesson on picking, which goes sort of more sort of like beginner lesson on picking, which goes into all this in a bit more detail, using sort of bluesy examples. So feel free to check that out on the channel. But a little bit of palm muting, and I'm always keeping my middle finger on string 1, index finger on string 2 in this case. So pull with middle finger, thumb, index. So definitely make sure that you're okay with that before carrying on. And what we can do to create a bit of interest is we can actually create some notes with our fretting hand, left hand, so I can hammer on. Again, there's a fretting riffs lesson, a nice sort of beginner level fretting riffs lesson, which sort of deals with hammer-ons and pull-offs, which is the opposite. So you can see I'm just plucking one note. So you can create several notes at once just with your left hand when you get used to this particular technique. So I can incorporate that into the picking pattern. So I can do a pull and then straight away hammer on with my left hand, which should sound like this. That last one was a slide, so I can use the same effect. So what's happening there is I've got to move in time. I've got to be accurate rhythmically with my fretting hand, just as accurate as what my picking's doing, so that it all sort of ties together nicely. So it's so you can hear there's a definite rhythm to that. Sorry, I'll do that again. Okay, so if you want to try that to start with, that's a nice little exercise. So we've got hammer on. There's the rest of the pattern, and then this time hammer on. I've got to keep this one fretted, keep this in place. And then so I'm going to end up with 2 fingers on at the same time when I hammer on here onto fret 4, and then I don't have to leave this one on just initially, so I get a nice firm hammer on so I can hear the note. It's got to be a nice positive tap, and then the slide needs to rhythmically sound the same. So the 2 notes, da dum, if you try that but slowly, maybe this sort of speed, 2, 3, 4. Hammer on again, 2, 3, 4. A slide, and we're going to finish on. Just going to arrive. We're going to arrive at fret 7. Just play that. You don't need to do anything. Now you notice we've got 2 notes on the top string in each pattern because it's pull and another middle finger in between the thumb bass notes. So we can sometimes look at changing note within one bar like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and so there, for example, I've done the hammer on the pull, and then I've gone and played fret 4 on the second middle finger note, and then I'll do a slide in, and then back to fret 4 again. So I'll do that one more time. So 3, 4, hammer on, fret 4, slide, fret 4. Okay, so these simple little coordination patterns, you can just scale them up basically, and you can you know, just vary it using that scale all the way up and down the fretboard. Play different melodies. So that was just something just made up on the spot there. And once you get used to which frets you can and can't play, and then once you get used to the sort of coordinating, creating these extra notes with your left hand, either slides or hammer-ons, you can even use pull-offs. Go the other way around, either pull off to the open string or pull off to a fretted note. Once you get used to that coordination, then you know, you just run with it and see if you can come up with some sort of interesting ideas yourself. The only other thing I did in the demo was actually played what we call some double stops, and they are where you play two notes at once, which sounds like a chord. So as with the previous chord lesson, we were talking about the fact that chords normally have 3 notes in them, 3 different notes, but we can imply a chord, we can make things sound like a chord just with 2 notes, like this for example. Now I'm droning this low G all the way through, so it almost sounds like just a melody which is played on 2 strings, so like what you call harmonized melody. But if I didn't play that, it can almost sound like a separate set of chords. Each position sounds like a separate set of chords, and what we've got is we've got a combination of two shapes, two different shapes that we play in different places, which are either 1 fret apart, like this. So for example, this is the G. So we can think of this as being our start note. So that's a G, and then so fret 5 and then fret 4. Or the other shape would be 2 frets apart. So this one would be fret 7, fret 5. Okay. Now again, check out the chord video, in particular the major one, which goes into this in more detail. But when you're playing shapes and you've got a fretted note or even an open string underneath, say a fretted note on the middle string, if you're not bridging enough, you'll catch string 1. So you see, you need to bridge right round there, so that flat. So you've got to make sure you bridge properly with these. It's not too bad with two fretted note shapes. So 2 frets apart or 1 fret apart. Okay. So we can think of that as actually being like a major, like a major chord, little major chord, which is 1 fret apart, and we can think of this one as being a minor. So major, minor, minor, but we're not doing those stretchy shapes. So we've got the major shape on frets 5 and 4, the minor shape on, so I'm just keeping this G droning through again, frets 7 and 5, and then frets 9 and 7, another minor shape, and then we've got 2 major shapes to finish off, 10 and 9, and 12 and 11. Okay, so all of that fits together in a nice sort of mellow, sort of smooth, melodic way. If I changed it at all, straight away it sounds, I mean, you can get really interesting sounds if you completely mess with this and mix it up, but to start with it's quite good to sort of learn the sort of standard, because the majority of tunes, maybe not blues, but the majority of tunes are built round something like this, which sounds quite sort of smooth and melodic, so it's quite a good starting point. So you've got major, minor, minor, major, major. We can even go lower than this first sort of G major shape. We can drop down to a minor, which is on frets 4 and 2, and then we can even go to fret 2 with the open string. Now, even though I've got a G involved, it almost doesn't quite sound like a G, does it? Sounds like a little chord change there. So all I was doing in the example was I was there's a slide there. So I was using these double stops and ascending, moving up through to the G, using a hammer on at the beginning. So. So those changes are a bit faster. They're sort of halfway through each bar, so they're changing twice as quickly as say when we were just changing notes like once per entire picking pattern. We're now changing twice as quickly on this bit. So it's a hammer on. This time I'm going to do the pull with my index finger, because I want to do the hammer on the middle string. So it's hammer on, thumb, middle, and then hammer on, thumb, middle. I'll just do that again. So it's hammer on, middle, hammer on, middle. Remember, the hammer on's always a pull with the bass. And then let's do a pull again, but we'll do a slide. And I'll play the entire pattern on that G. So it's like changing quickly and then just stop there. And then this time, just to finish the pattern off, middle, back to index. So I'm still like alternating, swapping between the fingers, but it's a reverse of what we were doing before, because we were doing the pull with the middle, middle again, middle, index, whereas here it's the opposite way around. It's index, middle, index, middle, middle, index, middle, index. And I can just pick out a couple of those other high double stops. So that's quite nice. That sounds a bit like a chord change. It's almost a bit like going from C down to G. So I can do a pull with 2 fingers as well. Again, you can have a look at the chord video for that in a bit more detail. So I can change. So I've changed chords on that second. I've gone back to the middle as the pull, and then on the next middle, I'm actually going to pull with 2 fingers. Change. So if I put all that together, do it again, just for practice. Go the other way. Maybe it sounds better to drop down, but I can experiment and see what works, or that works quite nicely. So instead of going up to frets 10 and 9, I might start on 5 and 7 and then shift up to 7 and 9, because that works nicely. That almost also sounds like a G chord. Or drop down. So it's just a question of piecing it all together. So you've got the melody on the high string, followed by a few double stops, which could sound a bit like this. 2, 3, 4. Do that again. To fret 12, do that again. And then double stops. Okay, so have fun with that. Please check out the other videos on our channel. There's loads of great stuff which ties into all of this. Quite a lot of blues-based stuff, which I imagine a lot of you are into. But it's quite good to be versatile, be able to play different styles, and you can incorporate it. You get a lot of sort of quite sweet melodic stuff that finds its way into blues and roots music. It doesn't have to be sort of completely gritty all the time. Yeah. Please check out our channel, subscribe to us, and we're going to drop loads more videos soon, and we look forward to seeing you here again soon on Coda Guitar.